Howdy y'all! The day is finally here. We get to talk about bottom surgery. Before I jump into everything, I want to say two sort of disclaimers. First of all, everything in this video is my personal experience and everything that I went through, so it probably is not going to be the same as someone else. That being said, I think that it's important to share all of these details because it's important to know kind of what to expect when you're going into a surgery, especially one this big. I'm hoping that I can help someone out there who is looking into bottom surgery, looking into phalloplasty, kind of what to expect generally. The second thing is that I'm probably gonna miss some points. If you have ever had surgery, especially a big surgery, you will be able to relate with the fact that it's hurry up and wait, and then it happens, and then it's just recovery. You sort of remember the pain, and you sort of remember some things here and there, but overall, day to day, minute to minute, you don't remember all of the details of recovery. So I have included points that I think are very pertinent and important to share with you. But overall, if you have any questions that I missed, if there's any information that you want to know, please reach out to me and I will try to answer them as best as I can. So with that, let's get started. So my bottom surgery journey started in January 2016. That's when I decided to kind of go ahead and start making phone calls to figure out how to make that happen. So I called my insurance. Long story short, they told me that they could cover Dr. Crane in San Francisco. I had heard things about Dr. Crane, but overall I had heard that results were looking well. He was one of the few surgeons in the US that I knew the name of, so it was an easy decision for me in that respect. So I called his office and set up a consultation, and the soonest they had was that summer. Skip ahead to that summer, I was in California, and I got a call from his office to confirm my appointment. What they told me on that phone call was that my appointment was set for the next day in Austin, Texas at his new office, which caught me completely off guard. At first, I remember feeling really angry because I had spoken to his office a couple of different times before that. They had called me intermittently to make sure that that appointment was still going to be okay, and they had never mentioned Austin, Texas. They had just said your appointment with Dr. Crane. So I was pretty upset. And then I was scared because I didn't know if I can't make it to Austin, do I have to cancel my consultation and wait another 6 months? Am I gonna have to go with a different surgeon? Is this even gonna still happen? So they told me basically that I had two options. My first option is that I could keep my same appointment, time and date, and it would just switch to a phone consultation instead of an in-person consultation. And then my other option was to wait an extra day and have an in-person consultation, but it would be with Dr. Chen instead of Dr. Crane. Personally, I really wanted to have an in-person consultation. I wanted to meet my surgeon, kind of get a vibe for how they would be as a person to me. So I decided to go ahead and have an in-person with Dr. Chen. And once I got there and I started talking to him, I realized that he was just really genuine and caring, and it really seemed like he cared about the sorts of things you want out of surgery so that he can do the best for you. Basically, he broke it down for me and let me know that there are 5 main components of phalloplasty, and you can kind of pick and choose, depending on which surgeon you go to, which of these parts of surgery you would like. So the first and the biggest one is obviously the main graft. I chose to have mine done from my forearm, which is why I have this scar. The other main area that you can choose from is the thigh. There are some other surgeons who do like abdominal flaps. Some I've heard of doing from like your back right here. For the most part, I think the majority of phalloplasties are done from the forearm or from the thigh. The second thing that you can kind of decide on is a nerve hookup. So that would basically make it so that you can have feeling in your new penis. I got my nerve taken, and that's what this line is. That's where they took the nerve from. So they basically just hooked that up to my original anatomy, and over time my nerves grew in, and now I have sensation in my new penis. The third thing is urethral lengthening, which makes it possible to pee standing up. That also comes with the highest complication rates, which are some things that I'm still dealing with that we'll touch on a little bit later. You can completely choose to have phalloplasty without urethral lengthening, but you won't be able to stand to pee. The fourth thing is your scrotum or your testicles, which they also shape out of your original anatomy. And then lastly, close up your front hole for all intents and purposes. I had all 5 of those things done. You can choose to leave your front hole open. If you decide to close it up, you have to have a hysterectomy. So my consultation was in the summer of 2016. In the fall, I think around September, is when they actually sent me a surgery date. And so they scheduled that for June 16th of the following year. I was trying to get all my paperwork in order and trying to get insurance to approve everything, so that way I wasn't scrambling. Unfortunately, that didn't work out in my favor. I was having this issue where my surgeon's office was saying that they needed pre-authorization from my insurance in order to perform the surgery, whereas my insurance was saying that this surgery did not require pre-authorization. Because my insurance company wouldn't send the paperwork to Dr. Chen's office, they were still not able to approve this surgery and have me for sure covered by my insurance. I was going back and forth between the offices for a month probably. Finally, Dr. Chen's office told me that if I didn't get the pre-authorization from my insurance, we were either going to have to reschedule surgery or we would have to pay out of pocket. And if you were wondering, the out-of-pocket costs, the surgery itself is around $50,000, but then you also have to take into consideration that there's a 5-day hospital stay, all of the medications, anesthesia, like all of that stuff. So bottom surgery can easily surpass $100,000 out of pocket. I would not have been able to do that at all. I sent a letter to my case manager at my insurance company basically explaining that because they refused to listen to what I needed for the surgery, they were going to cause me to have to get this rescheduled. So this whole long letter that I sent to them ended up going to like their head manager, and that person approved my surgery the day that I sent that email in. Your insurance company should be trying to work for you. So if you feel like they promised you some sort of benefits that they are not approving for you, send them an email or call them up or do something, get in touch and let them know, hey, I'm expecting XYZ out of you because that's what you promised to me and you aren't delivering. And I bet that they will just do whatever you're asking. On my insurance plan, there's a trans healthcare inclusion plan, and it has bottom surgery listed, and they weren't providing me that service. And so I had to send them an email saying, look, you said you would provide XYZ service, you're not doing it for me, you need to fix something. And they fixed it the day of. So make sure that your insurance company is working for you, especially if they have promised you some sort of a plan that you're paying for. My surgery got approved by my insurance exactly 2 weeks before I got the approval letter, and all of a sudden I was like, oh shoot, I'm leaving for California in a week and a half. I have to pack everything, I have to make sure that I'm ready, you know, it was just like a whirlwind of things happening. Flash forward a week and a half, and my mom comes to pick me up so that we can go down to California. I had a diet plan that I had to follow from Dr. Chen. I'm not sure if all surgeons do this. I know I had to stop eating like dairy, meats, grains, basically anything that was gonna be interrupting my digestive system. And then the night before surgery, I had to do bowel prep. Let me tell you about bowel prep. I had to stop eating solid foods at noon the day before surgery, And after that, all I could have was water, and then I had to drink a whole bottle of Imodium, which is like a cleanser. It basically just cleans you out. And then I also had to do a fleet enema the night before. So I spent most of my time before surgery just on the toilet. They want to make sure that there's no chance of infection, there's no chance of sepsis, and so they just make you clean your whole body out. So by the time I went into surgery, all I could think of was how hungry I was. I wanted to get into surgery so that I could wake up and eat. That's how hungry I was. So surgery, I think, was somewhere between 8 and 9 hours. It takes a long time. I woke up in the ICU after surgery, and my arm was in like this vacuum sealed, pressurized machine that was basically helping everything heal. I got a lot of questions about scars and donor sites and everything like that. So basically, if you decide to have your graft taken from your forearm, they take so much skin off of your forearm that they need to replace some of it. So they take a little bit off of your thigh to replace the skin on your forearm. So technically, this skin that you see is skin off of my thigh. So I had my arm in the vacuum seal pressurized thing, I had gauze on my leg, and then obviously there was a bunch of monitors and gauze and just everything going on down here. So I had my IVs for pain medication, for fluids, for all of that. Dr. Chen at least has a 5-day hospital stay, so I stayed in ICU for 3 days, and then I was moved to the regular patient care for the last 2 days of my stay. In ICU, you have a nurse that comes and checks on you every single hour, and that's 24 hours a day. And they'll come check on you every hour, ask you about your pain level. They check the blood flow into your graft to make sure that everything is going well. They make sure that you're not bleeding excessively. They make sure that you're eating well. They also come and check on you in the night when you're sleeping. They'll wake you up every hour to ask you how your pain is, to ask you everything. So you don't get a whole lot of rest in ICU. Obviously, you're just sitting in bed, so you're not exerting any energy, but you can't sleep for longer than an hour because they come in and check on you. So I went in for surgery, I came back out, I woke up in ICU. That night, I had a full-blown panic attack. I'm not sure what caused it. I think that it was the thought of being bedbound, knowing that I couldn't move, but I was so anxious and I just started freaking out. I was like yelling, I was like thrashing in my bed. It got to the point where the nurses had to come in and hold me down. They just give me a bunch of Ativan so that I could go to sleep. That was scary, and I woke up the next morning and I was like, okay, that happened. We're back at the hospital, it's fine, everything's fine. The nurses decided that they wanted to try and bathe me. So basically they just take all of your sheets off and you're completely naked laying in bed, and they just like rub you down with a bunch of towels and stuff, and then they flip you over and they rub you down with a bunch of towels. So that was my last day in the ICU, was when they gave me that sponge bath. And then they rolled me into my regular care room. Once we got into that room, it was like, oh man, I'm gonna be out of the hospital soon, you know? So day 4 in the hospital, I was in the regular care, and they decided that was they wanted me to try and walk. I had been bedbound for 4 days. That doesn't sound like a lot of time. Let me tell you, trying to walk after not walking for 4 days is like such a foreign feeling. The best way that I can describe it is that you just feel like a baby taking your first steps. Your legs are so weak. You can't stretch your legs out all the way. All of a sudden you have all this weight in your groin, and it's just all of these foreign feelings coming together all of a sudden, and now you're standing up and trying to walk around. So walking was one of the hardest things. They wanted me to be able to walk around the whole wing of the hospital before I got discharged, which I did not think was going to be possible after standing for the first time. By day 5, I was walking around. I still was getting fatigued fairly quickly, and it wasn't easy by any means, but I was able to walk around the whole wing, and so I was discharged. I am very lucky and grateful I didn't have to pay for a hotel or Airbnb or anything like that. I was able to just stay with a friend for free. That is when everything kind of starts to blur together. Days just kind of happened. Some days were harder than others. For the most part, I just remember being in bed. I was on pain meds, pretty heavy pain meds, so I don't really remember doing much. Dr. Chen wanted me to walk as much as I could, so I do remember going on walks every now and then, but for the most part, I really just sat in bed, just healed as much as I could. One thing that is really important is if you are going to have any kind of surgery or anything that involves narcotics, please, please, please take stool softeners. Nobody likes to talk about poop. Nobody likes to think about poop. But oh my god, if you don't take stool softeners and you're taking narcotics, you're just gonna have the most pain ever the first time you try and poop. And I can say this from experience from multiple times. I had this issue after top surgery. I had this issue after stage 1 bottom surgery. I had this issue after this most recent surgery that I just had. If you are gonna be on narcotics, you need to be taking stool softeners, Miralax, anything to just help you get all of that out, because it's the most uncomfortable thing. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, generally Dr. Chen likes to have 1 month of follow-up appointments. So we got into California June 14th, 2 days before my actual surgery. We were planning on leaving July 6th. So we were planning on being there for about a month, all the follow-up appointments and healing, and you don't really get your catheter out until the very last checkup appointment. He likes to keep it in just in case you're having issues with peeing and things like that. At my last checkup appointment, or what was supposed to be my last checkup appointment, we figured out that I was still having some issues with peeing, and he asked me if I could stay for another week. So my mom and I decided that we would do that. So I ended up staying in California, I think 5.5 to 6 weeks. If your bottom surgeon is out of town for you and you have to make plans to stay somewhere, I would try and make the end of it open-ended in case you have any complications or any issues that you need to stay in town to deal with. So let's talk about my complications that I've had. I'm gonna use my handy little packer. After surgery, there will be a bunch of stitches along the bottom side of your penis, and then obviously a bunch of stitches everywhere else. With all of those stitches comes the very real probability that when you try to pee for the first time, some of it will leak out from some of those stitch areas, and that is called a fistula, basically just an opening where there shouldn't be one throughout your urethra. I had one fistula, and it was right at the base where my penis and my testicles meet. Basically, it was right here. So when I tried to pee, a bunch would just come out and dribble down like that. That's a fairly common issue. Fistulas usually heal themselves pretty easily because all it is a hole. So if you can just wait long enough for it to heal up, then that usually goes away. So up until week 4, I had that fistula at the base, was able to heal up before I left California, and I was peeing like a champ. Something that is interesting about recovery, because of all of the healing and all the stitches and everything, to keep everything at a 90-degree angle, which is like this. So basically what you have to do is stick a bunch of gauze under here to keep your phallus up so that it can heal without any stress. So I left California after 5 weeks. Once I got back to Portland, which is where I was living at the time, I was able to pee on my own. Back at work, everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, I was having very painful urination. It was taking me a really long time to actually empty my bladder. I was in the bathroom for 20 to 30 minutes at a time just trying to pee. I was leaking in between bathroom breaks, so I was wearing a lot of pads. I was wearing Depends diapers because it was just an outrageous amount of pee everywhere all the time. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I found out that this area that had previously had a fistula had closed up and actually formed a stricture. A fistula is an opening where there shouldn't be one. A stricture is just a buildup of scar tissue. Because that stricture had formed right here at the base, it was pinching off my pee as it was trying to come out. I had already had my next surgery with Dr. Chen scheduled. Luckily, I was able to get that repaired pretty quickly. Before I went into stage 1 of surgery, Dr. Chen told me that I could possibly come out with a glans or I could possibly not. Dr. Chen was scared that if he did it all in one surgery, that part would possibly deflate or that the blood flow wouldn't go through and it would die. So for the first 3 months after my surgery, I didn't have a glans. I decided to go have my Phalloplasty done just because it was something that I wanted and needed. At the same time that I had that done, I had my stricture repair. For that first stricture repair, Dr. Chen went in at the base, cut it open, cut out the scar tissue, sealed together the 2 healthy ends of my urethra, and sewed it all up. He took out the stricture, he did the Phalloplasty, everything was fine. So from September when I had it, all the way up until February, everything was looking great. I had my next surgery scheduled, which was going to be my surgery to get my implants in. Then we get to February of this year, and I ended up having some more issues with peeing. I was getting blockage during peeing, weak stream, it was painful, all of the same symptoms that I was having before. So I emailed Dr. Chen and I let him know what was going on, and he told me that unfortunately he thought, again, that it was a stricture. I told him this time that I didn't think I was going to be able to make it to San Francisco in order to have him repair it. What I decided to do, since I was still living in Portland, was to have him refer me to OHSU. The doctor that I ended up having the repair with, his name is Dr. Witten. I went in and I said, these are the symptoms I'm having, this is what happened last time, this is my experience and what I know about my body and everything. Dr. Witten basically told me that I had 2 options. Overall, he told me that he thought the most successful repair would be to take a buccal graft from my mouth, which is basically just they take a slice of your cheek and use that as healthy skin in your urethra. So my 2 options were to have him take the graft, cut out the scar tissue, put in the new tissue, and sew everything back up. Or if I wanted it to probably be more successful, more sustainable, less likely to have a recurring stricture issue, that he could take the mouth graft, cut out the scar tissue, put the graft in, and then leave that area open for 6 months so that it could heal. And then in 6 months we would go back in and sew it up, and there shouldn't be the case of the recurring stricture because we know for a fact that that opening is still there because we left it open. So an experience that has been interesting for me has been having the opportunity to stand to pee for almost a year to all of a sudden having to sit to pee again every time that I go to the bathroom. So basically everything is still just healing up from my last stricture repair. I have my next appointment at the end of October, and at that time we'll schedule the next surgery to close everything up. I'm hoping that that will be the end of my strictures. I would really love to get my implants in as soon as possible. I can't have my implants until all of these complications are figured out. I'm just kind of in this limbo of waiting for my next surgery to be scheduled so that we can close everything up and hope that everything works the way it was intended to. So yeah, that I answered all of your questions. If not, hit me up. Like I said, a lot of it is blurry, happened really quickly, and also happened a year and a half ago, so I don't remember exactly everything. But if you have any questions, anything that you want me to touch on a later video or anything like that, just let me know and I will do my best to answer all those questions for you. Until then, stay safe and take care of each other.